Well, now I want to talk about what you said we may end up talking about quite a bit. I want to switch over to the Wisconsin debacle, and there have actually been two issues that have come out of Wisconsin recently, and strangely enough, I ran across the two items from different sources, so I'm sure that this will be receiving more attention in the next week or so as women's groups and feminists become more irritated over this. There will be an uprising probably. I happen to be an unusual woman in that I am a conservative feminist. Now, I know that sounds dichotomous. It doesn't sound like you could be a conservative and a feminist, but of course you can. And that's, I'm absolutely disturbed by this. Wisconsin equal pay law repealed because money is more important for men, says the title. And believe it or not, it's true. I thought, oh, this has just got to be, positioning. It can't really be the actuality of it. They're just trying to get a rise out of people, get them to read this article. It's probably not the actual facts, but it is. And this article, by the way, was sent to me by Dr. Paul, who's going to be on our show, not on our show, but he's going to be on this radio station from 9 to 10 p.m., and that's the Dr. Paul Show. Well, Dr. Paul and I go back many years. We've known each other for at least 12 to 14 years. And
he loves your position on women's issues, as I've heard.
Yes. And he does a different show than I do. I do business topics, and he comes from a very relationship-oriented perspective, but he also tries to address women because he feels that women should be hearing from a man as to what men are really thinking. It's kind of a nice little inside. But in this case, I am absolutely disturbed by this article, as he knew, I'm sure, that I would be by sending it to me. What's interesting to me is that the governor of Wisconsin repealed the state's equal pay law, and Governor Scott Walker. And I'm going to read this little paragraph verbatim because I think it says it quite well. Over at the Daily Beast, Michelle Goldberg writes a detailed account of the repeal and the effect it will have in the state. Goldberg also interviews Republican State Senator Glenn Grothman, who was an enthusiastic fan of repealing the law. According to Grothman, not only is there no actual pay gap between the sexes, if there was one, it wouldn't matter anyway. After all, men need money more than women do since they have families to support. You could argue that money is more important for men, he told Goldberg. I think a guy in their first job, maybe because they expect to be a breadwinner someday, may be a little more money conscious. To attribute everything to a so-called bias in the workplace is just not true. Oh, yeah, that doesn't sound biased at all.
It doesn't. I mean, you do it in accent, you definitely give him plenty of street cred with that accent as well.
Oh, no, I should have done it in a good Bronx accent, made him sound really sinister. You could argue that money is more important for men. I think a guy in their first job, maybe because they expect to be a breadwinner someday, maybe a little more money conscious. Okay, so Senator Grothman, you are a misogynistic beast. I cannot believe this came out of anybody's mouth in public. I mean, I suppose there's got to be some troglodyte living under a rock somewhere that would say that, but somebody who actually is in the public, representing the public, who says that men are much more important as breadwinners. Well, okay, Mr. Grothman, so just so you know, now, as of this current year, actually I believe it was as late as 2010, so I'm sure it's even higher now with the problems that we've had with the economy, because there are a lot of men who don't have the ability to find work. Their wives are the ones finding work, and they are not working. So as of now, though, in 2009, 40% of women out-earned their husbands. So apparently those families seem to feel it was important. I don't think the husband said, well, honey, since you're earning more money, I think you need to take a hit for the team, give it back to your boss, because women don't really need to earn as much as men. I kind of think the husbands were pleased with that. If they weren't, maybe they could send the money my way. But also, in 2008, 12% of all women were heads of household. Yeah, that's the minority, sure. But in America, do we discriminate against minorities? I'm trying to remember. I think that's considered to be bad form.
No, I can already see where it's going. It's definitely going to lead to a shift. We have a good movement. I have plenty of friends where the women already is. Here I'm making the money. You do this aspect of the work, and it's a good trade-off. I think if I could be a stay-at-home dad, if I could end up doing that, I would be very happy to have my wife making way more money than me and being successful. And I see my cousins or my sisters and how well they end up doing.
And I know you personally outside of the professional environment, and I know you'd be a very good father too. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And this is Dr. Drake with Ben Kaler, my manager. We are here to talk a little bit more about Wisconsin before we move on to free online PR tools for business. But look, I don't know what's going on with Wisconsin, and I'm not one of those conspiracy theorists. I don't have any great issues. I don't beat the tambourine for women's rights. I believe that we are equal to men. I believe we have the same rights as men. I don't think we should have more rights. But I think it's a little ridiculous that the governor of Wisconsin doesn't think we should have equal pay. And then on top of that, it also turns out that in the Insurance Journal today, it was announced that he signed a bill erasing workplace discrimination damages. Believe it or not. I don't know what's going on in Wisconsin, but they're doing more than making cheese, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, he's taking some big risks. That's a lot of voters. I mean, why would you even think about those two aspects like that are going to tick off a lot of people? Obviously, every woman's going to get ticked off. I don't think there's a woman in there that thinks, so, we don't need it. I mean, I'd be surprised if somebody would call in and say, I can deal without it, or I think it's something that should be repealed. I think it's... So I don't think he's going to be making many friends, and I don't think he'll be in office for very long. The problem is that he could be working on a lot more stuff than taking away something that's actually helping people to make sure that there's fair treatment in the office. I think we see already that it's already a lot of favoritism in the office, and so if we're going to have favoritism and there's already the majority are men managers, I think there is sexism. I think that's an obvious, so
I hate to admit it because again, I like to always play on an even playing field, and I like to believe in even playing fields. But I have seen it. I don't see it in my current office, and I don't see it I haven't seen it in a while, but I know it exists, and
I know it exists because we haven't had a woman president yet. I think that's an aspect you could just tie into that.
Yes,
at least.
I think it goes back to what we mentioned a couple shows ago, where even though I was not a big Hillary Clinton supporter, I was very disappointed to see how absolutely cretinous they were when she was running for office, and they would have things on their T-shirts that said, Hillary, get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich, and that was supposed to be funny. I just didn't get it. I just thought it made them sound like troglodytes.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I mean, if you want to be an uneducated, bore. Yeah, I mean, go ahead, wear that shirt. But I mean, if I was his wife, I would have clubbed him to death. But anyways, no, just kidding. Nothing like that. But I certainly would have. He would have been sleeping on the couch for a very, very long time. Anyways, so talking about Wisconsin, this is ridiculous, and apparently they're just eliminating compensatory and punitive damages for acts of employment discrimination or unfair honesty. Although employees can collect between $50,000 and $300,000 in compensatory and punitive damages. But the Republican bill blocks anyone from collecting such damages in employment discrimination suits. It's just very weird. They still can award back pay costs and attorney fees. Woohoo! But
so Wisconsin's doing that.
There's no punishment then for misbehaving as an employer.
Wisconsin's doing that, and Hawaii's actually adding the discrimination. Or what are they adding to
right. Hawaii is considering adding a workers' comp. They're adding a clause that says that an employee could be titled to workers' comp if they suffer verbal abuse in the workplace.
Not discrimination.
Right, but it's just this is rather pitiful. So I don't understand what's going on in Wisconsin. I mean, the last time I personally heard of any woman that felt that women didn't deserve equal pay was back in the 80s, and it was from a woman that belonged to a very small religious group who believed very strongly in subservience and allowing men to call all the shots. And more power to her, but that's her choice. I don't think that should be the forced choice of all women in Wisconsin.